They gave her roses. I carried the trash bags. That was the line that kept spinning in my head as I walked to the back of the auditorium. Everyone stood clapping for my brother, our mom dabbing her eyes with a napkin, the spotlight glowing around him like a crown. I stayed in the shadow, picking up paper cups from the refreshment table. My name wasn't in the program. It didn't surprise me. My name was never anywhere. I'm Camila. I'm 32. And if I've learned anything, it's that invisibility is never accidental. Some families craft it, shape it, preserve it. I was the first to graduate college. No party, no trip, just a handshake from Dad and a, make sure your brother gets there too. So I did. I tutored him through 2 semesters of chemistry, wrote half his internship emails, paid the security deposit for his off-campus apartment. He walked across the stage that day. I stood behind it. People kept calling me the helper. One woman even handed me her purse and said, "Can you watch this, sweetheart?" She thought I was staff. I didn't correct her. The clapping ended. People moved to the reception hall. My mother waved at me without getting up. I nodded back. My brother was surrounded by cameras and laughter. I picked up spilled soda cans near the trash bin. That was the moment something snapped, not loudly, just a click, like the final sound before a door locks. The next day I left early. I didn't say goodbye. My parents didn't notice. My brother sent a thumbs up emoji and a link to his Instagram post. Couldn't have done it without my family. He meant Mom, and maybe the dog. I didn't cry. I opened a blank document on my laptop and started writing. Not a journal, not a letter. Just lines. What it's like to be the one who catches all the falling pieces and never gets seen doing it. I didn't plan on sharing it, but I posted a small excerpt online. Just a paragraph. I thought maybe 3 people would read. It's 74 comments, then 200, then a message from a woman in Idaho. "I swear you're writing about my life." I kept writing, every night after work, quietly, no big declarations. I called it the chair I never got, because that day at the graduation, there had been one empty chair in the front row. I had asked if it was for me. My mother said, "That's for someone important." I never asked again, and I never went back. I didn't tell anyone I was writing a book. It didn't feel like a book. It felt like survival, like breathing on paper. Each night I'd sit in my corner, folding chair, cheap lamp, cracked laptop, and write. 1 chapter became 2, then 6. I didn't try to make it beautiful. I just told the truth. The small humiliations, the looks, the moments no one ever apologizes for because they think you didn't notice. But I noticed. I remembered. Like the time my mother offered to sew my prom dress, then said she didn't have time because my brother needed help with his science, fair. Or when I had pneumonia and my father still asked me to drive him to the bank since I was already just lying around. Those stories made it in, not for revenge. Just because they were mine. And every time I thought this one is too small to matter, someone commented, "That exact thing happened to me." It felt strange, warm, but unfamiliar. I'd never been seen so clearly. By strangers. I didn't put my full name on it. Just Camila R. No photo, no interviews. I self-published through a small platform with 0 expectations. No marketing. No big release. I ordered 1 proof copy. It sat on my kitchen counter for a week. I almost didn't hit publish. Then one night I did, quietly, no announcement. I went to bed. By morning, I had 20 downloads. Then it tripled. Someone on TikTok had posted a quote from chapter 3. A screenshot, underlined in red. They didn't forget me. They just didn't expect me to remember. Thousands of likes. Sat on the floor and stared at my phone. I didn't know whether to feel proud or exposed. A week later, someone tagged me in a podcast clip. A guest was crying, holding my book in her lap, saying, "This made me call my sister for the first time in 10 years. I turned off my notifications. I wasn't ready for this. I didn't even have copies printed. My inbox flooded with messages, asking for signed ones. I ignored them. This wasn't supposed to be big. It was supposed to be mine. But the world had other plans." 3 weeks after the book went live, my Aunt Lydia sent me a message. "Camila, I didn't know you had such a vivid imagination." No greeting, no punctuation. Just that. She was the one who once told me I took everything too seriously when I cried on my birthday because they forgot to sing. The comment sat in my inbox like a stone. I didn't reply. A day later, I got a DM from someone I hadn't spoken to in years. Maria, from church. She used to bring banana bread to youth group and tell me I was such a little grown-up. "Hey, stranger, saw your book." Wow. I didn't know things were that bad at home, Loel. Hope your parents aren't too upset. Anyway, congrats. I read it twice. Not a single sentence felt safe. She knew exactly what she was doing. Every word screamed, "You broke the family image." I didn't answer. Her either. I had no intention of defending my story to people who watched it happen. The hardest part wasn't the silence from my parents. It was the performance around it. They acted like I had suddenly become distant, like this came out of nowhere. My mother left a voicemail. "I just hope you're being careful, sweetie. You never know who's reading. Not everything needs to be public, you know?" That was her way of saying, "You embarrassed us." No mention of the stories. No, "I don't remember doing that." No, "Did we really hurt you that way?" Just caution, like I was holding a match too close to her curtains. But I wasn't burning the house down. I was describing the smell of smoke, and people were listening. Someone started tagging me in reviews. One said, "It's like she walked through my childhood and took notes." Another wrote, "I didn't even realize how much I was holding until I read this." That one made me cry. Quietly. In my kitchen. The same kitchen where my mother once told me not to wear red because it drew too much attention. I made a cup of tea, sat down, opened my laptop, and started the next chapter. The message that made me pause for a second came from my mom. "We never meant to make you feel invisible. We just didn't realize how sensitive you were." I read it twice, then I closed my phone and went back to writing. A week earlier, she had spoken at a church gathering about the power of forgiveness within families. Clara, my cousin, sent me the video. My mother wore a pale pink scarf, said things like, "We all make mistakes, and God teaches us to love even when it's hard." At no point did she say my name, but she looked straight at the camera, like she knew I'd see it eventually. This wasn't an apology. It was PR damage control. And still, I didn't answer. My brother messaged me again. "You know they're trying, right? I mean, at least they didn't disown you." That one almost made me laugh. They didn't disown me. They just erased me. But now, with people watching, they wanted me back in the picture, just blurry enough to be safe. That week, my first book hit 50,000 downloads. A small podcast interviewed a therapist about it. My name came up. They called me raw but restrained. I didn't post about it. Didn't celebrate. I bought myself a used armchair from Facebook Marketplace. Put it near the window. That's where I wrote at night now. The second book was coming faster. More layered. Colder in some ways. I wrote about the last Christmas I spent with my family, the one where I gave everyone thoughtful gifts and received a $5 candle from a drugstore. I wrote about the graduation again, this time from the back row, how I watched my brother smile at a crowd while I handed out plastic forks behind a curtain, and how no one looked for me. They thought silence meant peace. But I had learned that silence could also be a microphone. The first time I was introduced by my full name in a room full of strangers, my stomach clenched, not from fear, from disbelief. It was the kind of room with folding chairs, bitter coffee in styrofoam cups, and a few clipboards no one wanted to hold. A panel event on emotional neglect. Low lighting, intimate crowd. But there it was, printed on the program. Camila Rivera, author of The Chair I Never Got. It didn't feel real until someone read it out loud. That voice, clear through the mic. We're honored to welcome Camila Rivera. I almost didn't stand. My legs shook when I did. Not visibly, I hoped. But I felt it. As I walked to the front, I caught eyes with someone near the second row. Katie Velasquez. We went to school together. She was one of the pretty ones. The ones who called me reliable instead of fun. She looked at me like she wasn't sure if it was really me. Then she whispered something to the woman beside her. Both of them stared. For a second, I felt 17 again. Then I sat down, picked up the mic, and told the truth, carefully. I didn't name names. I never did. But when I read the passage about planning a graduation party and being handed trash bags instead of thanks, the room went still. A man in the back let out a short breath. A woman on my left blinked fast and didn't move. Afterward, people lined up, not to flatter me, just to connect. One said, "Your book helped me forgive myself for staying too long." Another whispered, "I sent it to my sister. She finally called." But the strangest moment came when a reporter approached with a voice recorder. "Your mother's name isn't mentioned anywhere. Was that intentional?" I didn't blink. "She wasn't the story," I said. "Just the setting." He nodded like he understood more than he should. That night, Clara texted me. "Tia's been asking around about your next event. Says she wants to support her daughter's voice. Now, her words, now, they never cared when I was silent. Now that I spoke, they wanted to stand near the sound." The second event was different, more formal. A small publishing conference had added a last-minute panel on narrative healing. They invited me to open it. This time, there were rows of theater, seating, a proper stage, water bottles on stools, my name on a screen behind me. I wore the same black shirt. Washed, ironed, simple. I wasn't nervous, not exactly. But I felt something inside me standing guard. Like part of me expected something to go wrong. It did. Quietly. 10 minutes before I went on, I stepped out to breathe. That's when I saw her. Standing near the side entrance, holding a tote bag and wearing too much perfume. My mother, she hadn't texted, hadn't called. No RSVP. Just showed up. Her eyes lit up when she saw me, the kind of smile people practice before a wedding. "I didn't want to make a big deal," she said. I didn't answer. She looked me over like I was wearing someone else's body. "You look serious," she said. "Is that how authors dress now?" I nodded once. Not at the question, just at her presence. She looked around. "I told Karen I was coming. She said I was brave." Then softer. "You know, I always said you had something special." I almost laughed. She used to say I was practical, helpful. Not the star, but the backbone. Now I was special. A volunteer walked by and handed me the mic pack. "Time to go." My mother touched my arm before I turned. "Make us proud." Not "I'm proud of you." Make us. I walked on stage and let the lights hit my face. I didn't mention her. I didn't even look her way. But in one section of the talk I read a passage about the day I realized some silences are louder than shouting. The room went still. And in that stillness, I imagined her face. Not hurt, not angry, just confused. Because she never thought I'd speak. Not like this. The lights dimmed. Applause faded. I stepped off the stage slower than usual. Not because I was tired, but because I knew who was waiting near the hallway exit. She stood by the table of pamphlets, pretending to read one. My mother never liked standing still. That's how I knew she was nervous. I walked past 2 volunteers. One smiled at me like I had just done something brave. I hadn't. I had just told the truth again. She looked up when I approached, straightened her scarf. You were very poised, like a sculpture, like something meant to stay still and look acceptable. I said nothing. She filled the silence. Some of the things you said up there, I didn't know you felt that way. I almost said, that's the point. You never asked, but I let the silence carry that sentence for me. She looked at the floor. I don't remember everything the way you do. There it was, the subtle reversal, not denial, just distance. I nodded. She tried again. But I suppose memory works differently when you're carrying more of it. That one surprised me. Not because it was apologetic, because it was close to honest. I let it sit between us. Then I looked at her. Really looked. She seemed smaller. Not physically. Just hollow around the eyes. There was a pause. She didn't move. So I did. There's a seat in the back if you ever want to hear it again. She blinked. What do you mean? I smiled just enough. That seat you once said was for someone important. I left it open tonight. Then I walked away. Not fast, not dramatic. Just done. After that night, I didn't hear from her again. No text, no voicemail, just silence, the familiar kind. The kind she's always preferred. But I knew she was watching. The podcast I launched 6 months later wasn't about them. Not directly. It was about stories like mine. Letters never sent. Rooms never entered. Voices finally used. I read anonymously submitted stories in each episode. Every week, thousands of women listened. Sometimes, I added a reflection of my own. I never said her name. But I knew she recognized herself in the pauses. One morning, I received an email with no subject. Just a single line in the body. You tell it beautifully. But some things don't need to be shared. No signature. But I knew who it was. I didn't reply. My brother reached out a few weeks later. Just heard one of your episodes. Powerful stuff. Didn't know you had that in you. That was his version of praise. Tinged with surprise. A little shame. He sent a photo of a book on his desk. Mine. Said he was sharing it with someone. I didn't ask who. Didn't thank him. Instead, I updated the next podcast description to include a quote from Chapter 5. Sometimes the people who ignored you are the ones now quoting you. That doesn't mean they've changed. Only that you have. The episode had the highest downloads yet. A week later, I got an invitation to a family gathering. Someone's baby shower. I deleted it. I didn't need a seat at their table. I had built my own. I never wrote the 3rd book, not because I had nothing left to say, but because finally, I didn't need to be heard by them. Now, I speak to the ones who understand without needing names. And I leave the door open, not for them to come in, but for others to walk out, quietly, like I did. You don't need to raise your voice to leave a room. You just have to stop answering when they call you the helper. New stories. Same silence. Every morning at 8, Subscribe if you're done waiting to be called by your name.